Hello, just here recording. So the last time we did this, we downloaded this, cloned this repository, if you remember. And I want to go into the repository itself. So what I will do is grab that repository, copy the HTTP link, and bring it to a terminal, clear out what I have here from my screen, go to an empty location, and then git clone to just bring the whole thing down. And I have it coming down, and it came down. So what I'm going to now do is go inside it. And inside there, I look at my tree. Tree is fairly large in that because there is lots of cookbooks available inside that repository, but I will go into deeper by showing it to you visually. So what I'm going to do now is open up in a visual editor, make it a reasonable size as opposed to too big. And then open it again. Yeah. So here we have this on the left side. You can see the folder itself that was cloned down. This one called using Chef Solo. It's too small to read from the distance, but if you scroll back, if you look inside, there are some instructions here. We don't need to read instructions because I already told you, and you have followed it up already from the write-up that I gave you, the same one showing up here. Then inside there also is a README file, which is another step-by-step. This is a stale version. You can ignore that file. The operative command we ran was this, essentially. Now, let's go into this. What this is a combination command. There are two things going on here. If you look at carefully, the first step is, this if condition. This if condition is checking for something, and if it is true, then it will do that thing within the if block. Otherwise, it will just skip that part. And in default, it will run line number 15, which happens to be running that solo binary. That's the main element of this flow of running the command that we ran the last time, which is run chef solo. That's the shell script that I have in that folder, which is what we ran, and that's what the shell script looks like. So if you strike out these elements between the if block, if you just cut them, let me disable that add-in that I have, which is going to hurt. I'll just disable that one, say no notifications. Okay. Now here, if you disable all that if conditions that we had, we are now looking at a very plain vanilla simple script. The two things it has is, look at definition of the location of where chef binary is supposed to be sitting, which is this location that we know is defined for the virtual machine that we have. And once we, the instructions are set so that it works inside the virtual machine, by the way. We are not using the virtual machine, so we need to actually create a configuration that will work inside virtual machine, for which we need to modify it. So we actually assume that Chef is not installed, which is not installed by definition in any machine, plain vanilla, if you get from EC2 or any other location like DigitalOcean, for example. So we need to do some basic steps of installing binaries for Chef. And so we executed these steps, specifically these three, followed by one more, which was sudo apt. Actually, if I remember, I think we sudo gem install chef. Is that what we did, or we got apt-get? I don't remember what we did last time, but this command or the other command, both of them will get you chef installed. And then you run it. The running is very simple. It's like this. That's what we did the last time, effectively, if you remember, right? And the flow of sequence in these steps essentially is grab all the dependencies you need, like basically do an apt update, apt-get update, install Ruby, install some packages to manage EC2 through the knife command, install Chef itself, and then we have a machine ready to run Chef. And in subsequent runs, these commands will finish faster because they're already installed, so they'll not run. But essential operating command to run Chef Solo is this, line number 10. Now, if you look at the components inside it, it says sudo chef solo, and then there are two arguments here. One of them is this -c option, and the other is the -j option. The -c option goes in details about defining what that Ruby file should be when it runs. So there is this file called solo.rb, which is this file. And all this file really does is says two things. And the two things are my cookbooks are located in the cookbooks folder right here. I have two cookbooks. And the other thing is my JSON attributes are defined in a file called JSON, node.json. So that's what this is. Now, if you first look at the JSON attributes themselves, it basically defines two elements. One of them is define a temporary location for us to store, and it's JavaScript object notation. So it's very, very trivially simple way of writing any syntax in JavaScript. And two variables are defined here. Temporary directory location is /tmp. And the second one is, what is my run list? What do I want to run when I run chef solo this time on this machine, in this case, inside this repository? And the answer is, please run my main recipe. Now, where are my cookbooks located? That question is answered in the other file. My cookbooks are located in a folder called cookbooks. You can call it whatever you like. As long as you have the folder, you can call it whatever you like. You can rename it to any other name you want. Could be recipe books. So you just rename it here in the solo RB file, and it will point to that folder and will execute accordingly. So the execution flow is like that. It look for the folder called cookbooks wherever it is, and you'll go to that cookbook and then look up what do you really want to run, which happens to be, in my case, main recipe, which means there has to be a cookbook called main, and it will run the default recipe inside that cookbook, which means I now have a main recipe somewhere I need to look for. So I'll go inside my cookbooks folder, and I have a main recipe. Inside the main recipe, I have recipes and a default recipe. That is my default recipe inside the main cookbook, and the entire contents of this folder, the main folder, is another folder called recipes and a file called default.rb. So it looks very simple. If you look at the cookbooks folder and you go inside main, the tree is very simple. I will do that. Yes, I think it is too big. So from a, yeah, is it reasonable now or somewhat? Yeah. So if you look at the tree in the main folder, it is very simple. It is just one folder inside, and inside that folder we have all the recipes stored, and the only recipe we have is the default recipe. And it's right. The actual structure is very simple, trivially simple. It's probably the simplest, maybe not the simplest, but a simple recipe that you can create is do a couple of things, like install a package, start it, enable it. Very trivial, very simple, just to start us. And it references another package and another service, which means that there is a need for another cookbook, which is here. It's called the Apache cookbook, and it is available from the community. So you can go to GitHub, Chef, cookbooks, community site. So you will get a link, and that is where the cookbooks are located, I think, in this cookbook, in this repository. You can basically find any cookbook you want. No, I think they changed it. It is this location. Here you can search any cookbook you want, and you can get the cookbook you like. So here is the Apache cookbook, and you can grab it from here. Here is the Apache 2 cookbook, is what I think is the most up to date. And what I have done in the past is grab this cookbook itself, placed it in this location right here, Apache 2 cookbook, and I have not made any changes to it. It is as it is. So I just grabbed the cookbook from community, placed it in this box. I'm using it. That's the extent of modifications I have made in this folder structure. And when we run it, it flows pretty much like this. It invokes the default recipe under the main cookbook, and then starts looking for Apache package and say, I need to install Apache package. It doesn't describe how to install it at all. The description, which is, the key thing is you define the outcome. What is the desired state you want? And you define it, and Chef will do it for you. You don't have to tell how to do it at all. I mean, that work is somebody already done it. So if you go look at the Apache recipe itself, you look at, there are various folders here. There's a folder called attributes. There is a folder called definitions, another folder containing files, and inside then we have defaults and test cases and mini tests and more tests and more. So it's a complex test suite. We can scroll back up and look at the key element we have, which is recipes itself. There are a variety of recipes available. We are just using the default one to begin with. And inside there, we will find that some people in the community have already created the Apache cookbook. And inside here, you will find that it defines how to install. The how-to part is done for us. And the community has done that work. We can make modifications if we like, but for every operating system type, they will define when it is Red Hat Linux or Fedora or SUSE. The service name should be HTTPD. When it is Debian, the name should be Apache 2. When it is Arch Linux, it should be HTTPD. When it is FreeBSD, the name should be Apache 2.2. So they have defined it already, like that. Same goes along in the directory. What should the permissions for that folder that contains Apache logs should be, and they should be 0755 across the board. If the platform family is Red Hat, Fedora, Arch Linux, SUSE, or FreeBSD, then that particular folder which contains our logs for Apache needs to be a 0755 folder permissions or file permissions for that location. They have defined it already for us. We can keep looking in the entire cookbook for Apache. You will find platform-specific definitions are called out already, so we don't have to worry about it. We can always go and modify something, but our idea is to rely on community to do basic grunt work that all of us already have done. Why not use it? Why reinvent the wheel? And with that perspective, this is our first attempt at using a cookbook, not even writing it, but just using it, right? We will try to understand what constitutes the overall concepts and constructs underneath Chef. Like what are the labels, what are the nomenclature they use, what do they mean, and how do we go about understanding it and then making it on our own. So I would begin that route by reading through the documentation like we did the last time and walking you through with examples that will help you relate to what we are really handling right now at this moment. And we'll first focus on this element that we last time we discussed. Let me just save this machine here. It is a community cookbook distribution. Yeah. So I'll describe that. So here is the location where all the cookbooks that are contributed by the community are kept. There are 1,724 cookbooks created by 59,187 chefs, meaning people. Yeah. I know, too many cooks in the kitchen. That's the problem, right? So you will see that popular cookbooks are already ready for you to use, like most followed, most downloaded, and some Windows cookbooks also recently updated. So they're updating, some these cookbooks being updated. The most downloaded ones, the very popular ones: MySQL, Apache 2, Docker, Java, Bacon. Don't even know what Bacon is. Who knows? Bacon. I have no idea, but we'll find out. So 1724 cookbooks we can just use. So the idea is to grab this cookbook. You can actually, the best way to grab a cookbook is to include it in a librarian file. And I'll go through the librarian construct also. There is a Berkshelf method also these days available, 2 methods of grabbing cookbooks from the community. And we'll go through that at some point. But before we jump into that, I want to go to the documentation and read out some constructs to help you understand where these things are coming from, how exactly the underlying components of Chef are structured out, to give you some nomenclature so we can come to the same terminology and understand and talk, and then build it out. So we'll begin with this overview of what exactly, things that we talked about the last time was this aspect of Chef client, if you remember, that I called out that there are two different things. Where is my paper, writer, pen? And there it is. If you remember me talking about Chef client works with the Chef server. So you have the Chef client plus server will work together, and it will be the Chef server. They will work together, and if you want to go solo, you can go without server by using Chef solo. We discussed that last time. Just a brief reference to that. Coming back here, if you look at this picture, which is nicely drawn, shows you an overall architecture of how Chef has evolved. Initially it started off with just basic elements of having a server and a client. They have evolved it into a variety of availability management analytics tools. We'll get to that at some point, but I want to focus on the core capabilities of the product itself. This diagram can be large to look at, but some of the core concepts that if you look at that I want to focus on primarily are, look, if you can you see the mouse? Yeah, you can see the mouse. So the elements that we define here are, one of the things that we saw was run list. Run list is that definition of what needs to run. If you just run without a run list, nothing will happen. I mean, it will do absolutely nothing because the run list is empty. Then Chef will run but do nothing. And Chef is typically run every 30 minutes or so if you want, but some companies choose to run it on demand, so whenever they want it. A classic scenario like we tried last time was to have Chef run manually, and we were deliberately killing certain processes and seeing how Chef will bring it back to life on its next run. Now, when you have a setup where infrastructure is set so that Chef runs on every client inside your entire infrastructure automatically on a periodic basis, like a cron job every 30 minutes or so, then if you have something going wrong, something that deviates from your stated design point, so you have a design point, whatever you design, and if you have deviations from that, some delta, then this Chef run will correct it, heal it automatically. That healing process will happen through a repeat run next time whenever it comes along, and it will bring you back to the design point. And yes, so you do a cron and run Chef client or solo, one of these two. Either you run client or solo, and you will do a periodic cron job, say 30 minutes, reasonable, and it'll automatically run the Chef cookbook that you have defined for that particular machine. It will pick up its role and run it, heal it. Chef is not a continuous process. It's one-time operation. It finishes off. It's not a resident, not a demon. It runs whenever you want it to run, and then it goes away. When it is done doing, it brings back the design that you want, and then it is done. Then it exits, essentially. Yeah, you can fix it. If something goes wrong in your design point, some minor changes happen, it goes away from the design, then Chef run will correct it. And we have seen some primitive behavior already in the last time we ran it. We deliberately killed Apache, if you remember, and then we ran Chef to heal it. It basically ran that recipe in a idempotent fashion. And that's a new word for you. I'm not sure if it's new for you, but the word is mathematical concept. It is idempotent, which is in mathematics, it means repeat. You can basically, it's like 1 multiplied by 1. If you do a 1 times something, the outcome is again the same, right? Every time you multiply something by 1, whatever that item is, it will be that item. So this operation is idempotent. Why is it not working properly? This operation of multiply by 1 is idempotent. Can you give me other examples of idempotency? The mathematical operations. Add 0. Any other? Yes. And is this operation idempotent? Yes. How about this? Yeah, maybe not. But mathematically, we're talking math, pure math. So how about this? No, no, because you have this, right? You have a problem to deal with. You don't know what will the outcome be. So that's the concept behind idempotency. And Chef runs and Puppet runs and any other type of these software they bring the same state anytime they run. So you run multiply by 1 over and over and over again, the outcome will be the same. Whatever you want, that will be the outcome. So from a perspective of idempotent operation on a server in the cloud, or multiple servers in the cloud, you keep running that process over and over and over again, the outcome will be exactly the same that you want. That's why it is called idempotent operations. All chef runs are designed to be idempotent, and we should make sure that whatever we create should also be idempotent, because otherwise you have a problem to deal with. Like you may have seen, if you're setting up something, uh, an example of setting up something, that you write a shell script, a beautiful complex shell script, and you run it one time and it fails halfway through, and then what happens? Unknown state, right? Your state is unknown, you don't know what to do now, and the only way to recover is go back to zero, right? And then do it again, and then you have half finished or three-fourths finished state, and you still don't know what's going on. So in context of chef, the way they have written it is idempotent, meaning if it's okay if it fails, because the next time it runs it will correct it. So yeah, any chef recipes that you write or somebody else writes are supposed to be written in such a way that they remain idempotent. That's a design point. It's a way of thinking about the problem. Is if you write a shell script, you finish it halfway through, you have some variable set, some others, some elements left over, you want to run it repeatedly, and you will be afraid you cannot do that because some conditions don't meet, some conditions may not meet as you write something up in a script. That becomes a challenge. So that's where this concept of idempotency is very important to remember as we work, and the community has taken care of it already for most part. But whatever you create should also be idempotent. For example, if you're creating a file and you assume that the file exists, but if you have to check whether it actually exists before you create it, because otherwise you will be overwriting the file. If it's empty, then you can create it. But if it's not there, then it's okay to create. If you're already existing, if you see that there is a file already there, you don't want to overwrite it. You want to make sure that you deal with that particular file properly. And Chef goes to the extent of actually reading inside the contents of file to make sure it is exactly what you want it to be. And they can be configuration files, or that's MySQL configuration with your logins and passwords, and any kind of setup information you want. You can specify that in some attribute somewhere inside your cookbook, and it will make it happen that way as you want it to be. And if something goes wrong, it will go and fix it and bring it to the state you want it to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chef does most of it already. It is written like that. With if check for if conditions. If this, then do that. Is a way of writing idempotent programs in shell script, but it's very difficult. And so if you write it in, if you use Chef, it's already most of it is idempotent to begin with. Whatever you create should also be idempotent, and I think then you are golden. Yes, run list is how the kickstart point is, the beginning point. So if you go back to our diagram here, this element of run list is essentially the starting point. That's what we define here in this case here. If you go back to our here in this case, we had this solo.rb that defined the locations, and the node.json defined the run list. That run list defines that I need to run my main recipe, and that's the only action we gave. So the action when it runs in this command, which will be carrying this node.json file, will give you, which specifies the action itself, and the action itself becomes this, and it will go inside the cookbooks folder, look for the main recipe, inside that look for recipes, and then find all the recipes in there, which happens to be only one, and that is the recipe it runs. The actions will be install Apache, start Apache, enable Apache, and done. Very simple, right? And at the end of the run, you say you're done, and it reports that it is done. You remember from last time, right? That you ran it, then you saw that it is done, and then you can run it again, and it will do nothing next time because the outcome is already achieved. In the meanwhile, if somebody destroys something, it will correct it. So, for example, if you just kill the process, if the process is dead, so it will restart it essentially in the next run. If you physically uninstall Apache, then it will reinstall Apache and then run it and enable it. So you can go to the extent of being totally destructive, like completely like this, sudo apt get remove, and completely wipe it off and run chef again. It'll bring it back. Because that's the design point here, right? We say in line number 2, install it. In line number 6, start it and enable it. So it will achieve that outcome and stop. There's no magic here. Just follow the steps. But written in a fashion where it is idempotent. So that brings the ease of use elements of repeatability of question. So Maven is a build tool. Yeah, it's a build tool. It will build your Java project into a jar file that you can deploy in a Tomcat container and serve your application. Whereas this thing is setting up configurations for your entire infrastructure, as opposed to building a package in Java, right? So in Java, you will write whatever you write, then you run a Maven or Ant, or one of these two, or maybe both, not this A and T. And that will prepare a jar package that you install in Tomcat, if you remember that. And it will just serve like an app server. And Tomcat is part of Apache, right? Looks like you're a Java developer, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So next to you is a Python developer. No, no, not everybody is a developer here. So I think we should know each other. Yeah. What in Pilani? Kanpur. You're also Kanpur. Oh. Aha. Okay. I didn't know. It's a pretty good college. Pretty darn good college. Yeah. That's probably a very well respected college. Yeah. Just like you have Tsinghua University in China, very well known. Tsinghua, if you remember, very well known university. Or I don't know. I think Shanghai maybe. Tsinghua is the name is Tsinghua. And maybe, I don't know where it is, but it's a very good university, is what I know, because we hired many people from there. So. So you also studied chemical or what? Environment. So he's a chemical engineer. He told me that. I need to know you, otherwise how will I talk to you? Yeah, I think what we have is a good mix of people with operations background, people with IT background, services delivery background, and some developer background. And Michael is fairly new to the company, if I understand it right, and he's probably just out of college. Oh yes. He's probably the fastest, which I expect. I totally expect that, and he's doing it exactly what I expect him to be doing. He finished that whole exercise before anybody else could. Me too. But, you cannot compete. Yeah, I told Conrad the other day, I cannot compete. It's hard, and so hats off. Yes, it's hats off. I don't compete. I don't even attempt to compete. I have a son who goes to third year in engineering UW, and I know what it is. Yes, electrical. So back to what we are in the picture again. In this aspect of run list is a definition that you define in some kind of an attribute file, like you saw in the node.json. Then you have aspects of attributes themselves, where you can associate and provide values you want the application to take on. For example of an attribute will be, let's go and look at a cookbook. So here in Apache, there are some attributes defined in default, and those are, see, the attribute can be if the platform happens to be Red Hat or CentOS and Scientific and all these guys, then in that case, the package should be apache.package should be httpd, apache.directory should be etc httpd, whereas if it is Ubuntu, the Apache directory should be etc apache2. These are conventions that are defined in terms of attributes inside a cookbook for Apache, and already done for us. We can keep looking at some other attributes, like when it is Arch Linux, the Apache directory should be located at etc httpd. Now, in Arch Linux specifically, default Apache default site enabled is true. That's what it is defined. In case of BSD, for example, the subtle changes. The directory location should be user local etc apache2. Now, for our configuration, if we want something completely different, we can override. Exactly. So we can not do something like this. Cannot do. Like if I want it to be Nilesh here, I cannot do like that. What I will like to do and want to do is actually make a cookbook separate and override, not overwrite. So I'm saying you override, not write. Do not overwrite. You override the other cookbook existing. So you don't modify whatever community has given to you. You override it by creating a replica of that particular location, that particular file in a separate folder that also goes alongside this folder called cookbooks. You create another folder called site cookbooks, and you create your custom cookbook that you want and put that in that location. Yes, pretty much. Yes. No, you want to just change only that. So you just override that particular segment, that particular attribute, that particular file, whatever you want to override, you can. Not just attributes, but any definitions or anything else, even including recipes. If you don't want this recipe, the default recipe, you create your own, that's fine. You can override it. I think it depends on the context. So as you will practice it, you will actually override. You will have to override in certain cases, and then you will see what is needed. So I want you to experiment with it, right? So remember, we can override, not overwrite. We should not. You can actually overwrite also. This is okay. It will work. Not a good practice. Not a good practice. You want to do this. So you can keep your cookbooks separate from the community cookbooks that community provides, and you just make modifications that you want that are custom to your configuration in your company, in your environment, and keep that separate aside from anybody else's, so that you can keep updating and get updates from the community at the same time. Maintain your overrides. Community will update this every time. Community cookbooks, they'll keep updating the whatever they provide in the in that location here. So if you go detail and read version 2 and view the source, it will take you back to Apache 2 cookbook created by somebody, which is available in this location. If you'll see that the last location update is actually as late as 22 days ago. Somebody updated 22 days ago, and that contains some changes. So let's see what changes are. They made some comment changes here in logging. Fine. Somebody decided that collectively, and it's a good, I hope it's a good decision. It may not apply to our specific case, but we'll still grab the cookbook, right? The other aspects regarding data bags and some abilities to search are things that you will actually go with examples. I want to give you another example before I talk about this picture. We can keep talking, but I think it's best dealt with in the context of an example. So what I would like to now ask you is, using our same existing example, which is this one, as a reference point, what would it take for you to create a very similar step, except we want to use Nginx instead? Like the same thing, I want to not use this cookbook called Apache, not this, but I want you to actually create the whole setup, but this time use Nginx. Oh, sorry, you're new to it. Okay, sorry, no problem. So the package is called Nginx. This is a HTTP server and a reverse proxy. It's an open source product, very popular, very lightweight, and very efficient, very useful. Yes, like Apache, but lightweight and probably Russian. We don't care, but it's a good product, a very good product, beautiful. I think it is Russian, if I remember right. But who cares? Yeah, it is a fantastic product. I use it, love it. Awesome. So want to take this exercise and I'll help you how to go about doing that. Yep, I'll let you do the brute force method, meaning actually download the entire cookbook and put it manually in that folder. Like we have this folder structure, right? Let me go tree. So if you look at the tree here, it's pretty large. The entire cookbook is what we don't need anymore. So what I want to be able to do is something like this. I want to erase that Apache folder altogether because I don't need it. It's gone. Now in my cookbook, the package I downloaded, my tree is very simple now. It looks like this. Very simple tree. Because I deleted my Apache cookbook, which was sitting underneath this location. So it's gone. You can also ignore instructions and readme file, whatever we have. I'm going to delete those also because they're kind of pointless. So rm readme and instructions, they're also gone. So now I have a very short remainder and my tree looks like this. I have a cookbooks folder. I have a main recipe. The recipe itself is wrong. It says Apache 2 or something, a main, and a node.json and a run command and a solo RB. So let's review them again one more time. We have our run command here, and most of this is kind of pointless unless we are running on a, so you are running on a remote computer. So you want to keep them. You want to actually knock off these guys completely, and you want to modify your write-up like this. And that's what you want in your executable file, the shell script, which will basically install the whole thing and then run it. So if you have a ready-made machine with the steps number 1 through 5 already completed, you can reuse it. If you have a new machine going on today, then you need to install these components, lines number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you can repeat line number 11 as you need from a run perspective. So did you save your machine from last time or it's gone? Saved it. So if you saved it, you just run line number 11 as and when needed. That's the line to invoke chef. In solo.rb, you don't need to change much. I mean, nothing, actually. And in node.json, you again don't need to change anything. But you need to definitely change the main cookbook itself, which currently says install Apache. And we don't want it. We want Nginx. We want this. And this thing is available here. So I want to grab that cookbook and see how it goes. So I'll go to that location, grab it. And so that's the source code, the primary location for Nginx. And we can either download the cookbook by clicking this button like this, or we can do a git clone from GitHub. Your choice. I think download is easier. for now. So we go download that particular cookbook and put it in this location here and here and save. It comes. No, it, solo will. You need to do these things on that machine. So I'm assuming you're working remotely on that computer directly, which I'm not. So just visually, that is the difference. You have to do these things on that machine. So you can do a wget or something like that to grab it from that location. I'm just visually showing you the aspects of, if you want me to connect to a remote machine, I can do that. But just tell me. Yeah, go ahead. No, I'm okay. I'm just a little limping. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so I have my server instance running on VS. And I got my keys transferred from my Boeing machine to my personal machine.
Okay.
So I found this one session. This is the one.
Check connection.
Oh,
sorry. Load it.
Yeah.
And then check your connection, data. I'm home, his login name is wrong. You should say Ubuntu.
Oh.
And then save, and then open. There we go. Yeah. Ubuntu is defined as default username for Amazon EC2 machines if you're using Ubuntu OS. If you're using DigitalOcean, the name is root. They give you root access. Yeah. So last time you can. Yeah. I think from a remote machine perspective, you should run. Sorry, where is that? Yeah. So your shell file should look like this, something like this, right? So the last line is for repeat runs. Initial setup is first few lines, right? Yeah, just run the last line. You don't need to run the other lines because it's one-time setup. You can skip those. And the work that we need to actually do is to find out how to configure Nginx as a cookbook. I'm beginning to do it with you, but I want you to also do it. Did you modify that to make it look like this? Right. So even for first, we need to go this way. Otherwise, the thing is setting up the script you download from clone, git clone, is designed to work on a virtual machine that I gave. So you have to, right, if you can please pull up that run chef solo in VI and knock out these lines that are not needed, make it look like that. It will make it work. So the second line goes, line number 2 on the top goes, and most of these you have to keep the pseudo lines. They're already commented from this, anything else, pseudo will keep. So these three pseudos keep. If I close, and then add a line just above F5, which is the line number 5 there. Sudo gem install chef. That will do it. Yep, you can actually run this. That should get your chef running on your remote machine. You can test for its success by just typing chef dash client or chef dash solo. So that will be a quick check for success. And then you can repeat line number 11 over and over in place of this. So that step number 7 is line number 11 there. And so this is installing knife EC2, we successfully did. And now I think it is waiting to install chef, which it is doing right now. Gem installed, and sudo command.com, what was that? I think there's a double sudo, probably. Yeah, it's a double sudo. So this sudo is causing the conflict. We want to make modification to this line, remove the sudo and pull the chef directly here instead of the variable. So want to strike out the variable for chef binary and then put in the name chef dash solo. That's good. Now only run the last line if your chef is running. So it's okay to repeat because it's not going to do anything. Already installed. So 11 is what you need. It will install in Ruby again. Yeah, now chef ran. It just did nothing. Starting chef and did the main recipe. So it is going to install Apache for you, and then you can open up that particular, point your browser to that machine, this browser to that machine, and you will see empty Apache page. I see. You can actually see the empty Ubuntu page Apache on this browser pointing to that machine.
So if unable to resolve host, and then I think there is SSL issue. So it's asking me to add this into the configuration file. SSL validation.
I think it's a warning. You can ignore it for now. It's a warning. Warnings can for now ignore because these are specific to Apache. Are you still doing Apache business or are you onto Nginx?
Done anything. So
okay. So you just ran chef solo.
Yeah.
Can I inspect this file, please?
Yeah.
So VI. Yeah. So you make this file look like that file there.
Okay.
So VI, make it look like that file. And so you want to strike this sudo part.
Oh, take that out.
If you're running it through the terminal, and don't do double sudo, that's what I'm saying. You can keep it, just realize that if you're doing a sudo and again sudo, if you run this as sudo, don't run the other command outside as sudo. You're okay then. You're golden.
Okay. Right. I didn't run all the sudo. I just ran without any.
It's fine. It'll work fine. Yeah.
Okay, but
it says install up to date, started, enabled, everything is okay. So you open a browser, go to that computer in the cloud, and you have a public IP address. It will show you the page, Ubuntu page, Ubuntu Apache page, public IP.
Oh.
That one. Yep. Open it up, and there it comes. The classic Ubuntu Apache page. Hope your firewall is open. So check your firewall in console. Check for security groups and see port number 80 and 443 are open or not. The default. You can look for a default name here.
Yeah.
So click and open up 443 inbound. All are open. Check outbound. Are you the one using this one or some other? Which security group?
My previous another class.
I see. So you need to go look at the group you're using. So go back to the machine. It will tell you your security group you're in deployed that you're currently using. Yeah, right. Let us look at security groups. You're using these Launch Wizard 1. So you need to go look at that Launch Wizard 1 and make sure your port number 80 is open, which it is not. So you open it up, edit, and open up port number 80. So add a rule. No, don't touch the SSH. It'll kick you out.
Oh, it's additional.
Yeah. So add one more, and then drop down HTTP, one more HTTPS, and you're done. HTTPS and save. It'll open up ports for you. Now you go back here after a few minutes, maybe a minute, and just there it is. It came. Yeah. Stuff. Wow. Network? Is it Wi-Fi issues here or? Oh, you're done.
Yeah, I finished that.
Okay, thank you. You should announce it. Yeah, I'm done.
Are we doing the engineering
Hey, he just finished. Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes,
if
yes.
we do the engineering, so we just need
Yeah,
to.
you need to basically throw away whatever we have and then think of what you want to keep.
So right
And
now I didn't touch this at all.
no, no, you did not. But now I want you to. I want you to throw away Apache Cookbook and find community cookbook called Nginx, put it in the right place and use it.
So throw away the Apache cookbook
Yes,
and going to
go into
adopt.
cookbooks folder and delete it. We don't need it.
Oh, entire thing.
The entire Apache 2 folder. It's gone. It's gone. We don't need it because now our exercise itself is changed
Uh-huh.
to something completely different.
Oh, I didn't terminate.
It's okay.
That's okay.
It's fine.
Uh-huh.
We'll destroy the machine if you or just stop Apache processes on that machine and start Nginx.
Okay.
That will be okay.
Okay. Now,
So ps-ef pipe grep Apache 2 and kill them and kill the root process 1113, kill 9 1113 and it's dead. Oh, sudo kill. Unable to. You need to kill the other guys also, the top two.
yeah, that was the other checking idea.
Unable to resolve. You have an IP address issue. I don't know what that issue is. It's your internal IP address in Amazon. Yes, it is the internal IP address. So you want to,
Oh,
yeah, private IP. That's the, I, I, I would have to look, go back to that command again and see what that issue is. What does it say? Unable to resolve.
and earlier it said SSL validation.
That's a warning. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a warning. That's Apache specific warning for configuration. So when you set up Apache and you want to do it properly, you want to actually read that warning and address it.
so the basic issue.
Basic issue is it's a machine issue. So let's check if you killed all other Apaches first, and we can maybe create a new machine, throw this one away, or something like that. We'll get to that, but let's keep using this machine until
Okay. So
we find it's really broken, then we go away. I think you are all Apache dead. There is one more.
my kids took it out.
Nice.
There was only one, and then
Yeah, I have a laptop that I have given to, which doesn't have the Q key.
you graduated that.
No, I don't know how it happened. It's probably it came out or popped off or something. But my UW graduate doesn't even use Windows machines. He said, I don't want Windows. He's like this guy.
Doing all Hackintosh.
Hackintosh stuff. That is me. Like Hackintosh 5 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, all of it is that. So you have to go grab Nginx cookbook from the community somewhere. You have to go hunt. You hunt on. There is a specific location. I'll pull it up. So that's the right location to go grab cookbooks from. It is the community sponsored site, which is, where was that? Yeah, this site. So supermarket.getchef.com. That's the new name. It used to be community dot something, which is changed it to supermarket. So the site is supermarket.getchef.com, and here you can find any cookbooks you want, like Nginx, for example. Oh, spelling mistake. But even with the spelling mistake, it found the right cookbook. How nice. So here is the cookbook, Nginx, right? So what we want to do is go grab that cookbook itself by looking at the download button. So you basically click on the download button, and there comes a download. but that's visual browser. In case of your remote computer, you want to grab that from source.
In this book, is it installed, configured, the com underscore com?
Just use the first one. This is the Nginx book. The other one is a configuration.
Oh, I see.
And look at the date.
Oh,
It's
where is
July
it?
and it's very old. So ignore the old. Put the no, not the most downloaded. Click on this to get to the page for Nginx cookbook. And here you can either get from the source or you can download a zip file, but you don't want this right now. You want to go download it remotely. So it's better to go to the source, so view source, and grab a Git link and clone it on the remote computer.
So get this URL.
Yeah, get the URL, go to that remote machine and do a Git clone in some other location. Or you can do clone it right here. Yeah, Git clone link, paste, enter. And it clones that Nginx repository right in the right location. You got it now. There it is. Right?
So we clone the Git repository.
Yeah, cloned Nginx Git repository in the right spot. You placed it in the right location. Now you have it there. Now make use of it. No, you have to read your main cookbook and modify the main cookbook to use the new recipe, a new cookbook you just downloaded, right? So you want to actually modify your.
I got this one.
Yep.
So how do I remove this Apache?
rm-rf. So pwd first, check your location and go to cookbooks folder. I think you're in root folder. What machine is this? This is tab. Press the tab button, it will expedite. So type, press cd, enter, and enter. And now cd space capital U and tab. There we go. Enter. And now go to cookbooks. Tab. There we go. Now we have two cookbooks here inside ls. One of them is Apache 2. You want to delete that completely. And the second one, rm-rf space Apache 2. Tab. Enter. Now it's gone. Now what we need to do is go find that Nginx cookbook from the community side, and you grab a HTTP link, and then go in that location and say git clone link. Now you need to place it right where Apache 2 was, in that same spot. So you are already there. So git clone and clone it in that location. There we go. Enter. So it will bring the entire repository and put it right where it's supposed to be. So say ls, and you will see it. There it is. Now you need to go and modify your main cookbook to make use of the Nginx recipe. Except that it also brings out the Git repository and the entire history associated with it. wget is just like grab the whole folder, raw folder. This will get you the Git repository itself, including a .git folder and its history of any changes ever made. Yeah.
So now I just run the last one. So I replace that thing. So my recipes have got not the recipe.
I want to see your main recipe first.
Sorry. So
Just show me that main. Yeah. So Nginx install, Nginx start, enable. Yeah, you should also cross-check this detail with the Nginx documentation. See what they say. These packages vary. So let's read. Very likely to be the same, but I want you to check. And the best way to check is go back at Nginx community site and see how to actually invoke the cookbook. It may exactly be the same, probably no different. But in that Git repository for this Nginx cookbook, it will tell you how to invoke it. And some specific instructions will be available for every cookbook, how to use it. You have to go look for that and make sure to call it. Make sure to make any modifications or any attribute changes you want to do, and then incorporate that into your own custom cookbook, which invokes it. So your main cookbook will invoke. And you want to make those changes, if at all, if there are any, you want to make those changes in your main cookbook and then run it. For now, it's okay to just run because it's very, very intuitive, right? It's probably the same. So it's okay to run. VI default to talk. Oh, you can use Nano if you prefer. Nano, some people prefer Nano. The problem is if you're learning VI, you have to be very diligent in typing because otherwise if you get stuck, then you cannot get out. It's okay to use VI, but then I don't blame you, but you have to be extremely diligent. It is La La Land. Yes, that's a good way to put it. Just find wherever you see an Apache 2 and say Nginx. That should work. The best way to go community and that site, type Nginx. The very first link is this link here, which will take you to the page for that cookbook itself. And look at the dates. So this is the page for Nginx cookbook, and you will find there's a download link there, but that's not what you want because it's not downloaded. This is downloaded locally. You want it on the remote computer. You want to go to the source and then grab the Git link and clone it there. Git link and clone it there in the right location. In fact, there is a button to copy. There's a button, just click on that, copy it. So you can bring it here and say git clone paste and get it the right spot. This may not be the right location. Do you know the PWD? You should be in cookbooks. Right exactly where the Apache cookbook is or was. And you need to good, and then you clone it. And so now you have Apache 2 cookbook in the right spot. You need to modify your main recipe to invoke Nginx. Main recipe is inside a folder called main, inside cookbooks. So the cookbook folder, then go inside, there is a main folder. Inside there is a recipes folder. And then inside recipes, only one file called default recipe. And that's what you want to edit. And you want to remove references to Apache 2 and make references to Nginx. Essentially, you can actually do line by line modify 2 places and you're done practically. Pretty much it. And you're done. Then you run this, and this will do the same thing, except this time it will invoke the cd dot 2 times to come back to the main location. You're using chef location. And here you invoke the last line inside your shell script, which is that last line, and do a sudo. This is a way to invoke Solo. We are using Chef Solo as opposed to Chef Client, which we will get to pretty soon. So this time it is doing exactly what you expect it to do, is install Nginx and then done. If you open up the browser and point to the remote computer, you should see an Nginx page this time as opposed to Apache page. So you did. Awesome. How are you doing?
told me this, I'm not sure this, and the other is just a warning.
It's a warning.
It's a warning. So it's called pretty fast, I'm not sure.
I think it did. Installed Nginx and it started it and enabled it to just open your browser, go to that machine, and you should be ready. So open a browser, go to that address, public address, the public address of this big B, which is ifconfig. ifconfig. Enter. That's the address. 198, 199. Mm-hmm.
So when you install it, not just install it, install it and run it.
Yeah, enables it, creates whatever is needed to make it happen. Yeah. So it's very simple that way. From that perspective, it's, if you think of it, it's trivially simple to use. The hard part really is in terms of understanding for your team's perspective what infrastructure elements you need, and inside each of these nodes that you will have in a cloud, what do these nodes contain, what configuration information you need to provide in your repository, that when you run Chef, you typically run Chef on a global scale on your entire cloud. I want to run it to update my entire infrastructure wherever these machines are, whatever their roles are. I want all of them to take on this new outcome, and they will produce that new outcome that you expect to see. And at that time, the real work item goes in not just using community cookbooks, but also understanding with the team of developers and operators in terms of understanding our overall blueprint. What do we want the outcome to look like, and define it and test it to see if it actually works the way we think it should. And then we have a goal. We have achieved the goal by making it repeatable. The idea is, the core idea behind all this is actually a word my professor used to say. He's a Nobel laureate. He used to say, there are people and there are machines. If you have something that you do twice, you better automate it, because the third time you don't want to do it again by hand. And if it is automatable, you routinize the repeatable. If it is not automatable, then you deploy people and have them think. And so people will think and do it. And it's okay to make mistakes, but people will be able to understand the mistake and correct it. Machines cannot. But when it is repeatable, you better routinize the repeatable and put some process. So that's where this tool comes in really beautifully in line in routinizing your repeatable operations to make the grunt work out of whatever you do on a day-to-day basis. And I would go to the extent, I think I go to the extent of spending nights and nights on something as trivially simple as, I don't want to repeat that thing third time, because I want third time it has to be automated. I will not do it again. Is how I think. And I go to the, I think I call myself lazy when I do that. Is because I'm lazy, I don't want to do it by again and again. I would automate it, and I go to the extreme end of taking pains to automate it through any means I can. And I think this is a good method of automating. It's one of the ways that you can automate. And it helps us do that, is to achieve an outcome we want for our project, for our infrastructure, for our configuration, for our machines that we want. We define that outcome. We write it down. We test it in a virtual environment, and maybe in a cloud environment, in a public cloud, private cloud, see how it works, test it out thoroughly. Once it is done correctly, compare notes. Hey, did we do it right? Do we still need to make some changes? And then we have a repeatable method of accomplishing the same goal over and over and over again, nightly basis. When you can do it nightly, then you get this ability and the agility to produce whatever you want on a nightly basis. You can ship services to your customers worldwide. And now I know, at least you told me, is to ship software, which I never thought you would, because I was dumb and never studied Boeing. That you actually ship software, I did not know. So thank you for enlightening me. That you can ship software to your customers, airlines, nation, worldwide, that will use your software, and you can update them to make them happier, so you can make money as a company. So you can do that. You can pull out these tricks and compete better with who's the other competitor you have? Airbus. Airbus. You can compete with Airbus by providing better software than they can ever think of, and do it every night as opposed to every year. Quite a change you can accomplish, and you can absolutely do that by thinking it properly. And it may sound like a joke right now. I understand you're a big company, but you can pull it off. No, no, I'm not kidding. You can actually do it. I know. I've worked in a big company also, so I understand. I understand your laughter, but it's okay to laugh. But it's okay to dream also. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's okay to dream. At least dream. So as you saw, this Nginx was trivially simple exercise. All we did was download it. No, not this. This is like a tar file. So this folder is a tar that I need to unzip. And when I unzip, I will get that Nginx folder that you already cloned. Since I'm not on a remote computer, I downloaded the package. I'm going to untar it. And in there, I have this tar file. And then Nginx, and there I have it. So I have that Nginx folder. I'm going to remove the tar. I did not do. I just downloaded tar package, tarball. No, it's not source. No, it's a tarball. It's not source. I'll show you how they store it. So if you find just the word Nginx here, there are multiple things you will see, right? Like some of you saw that it shows you this Nginx entry. Then another entry called Nginx conf, another entry called proxy, Nginx vhost, Docker Nginx, this and that, goes on and on. Focus on the most important one, which you want is Nginx itself, which is on the top. You click on the name, it will take you to the page for that cookbook. In that page, you will have multiple download locations. One of them is this, which will give you a tarball. This is stale. Bad. Don't take it. This is stale. So sorry. No, old. Stale it can be, maybe stale. Like I don't want you to take stale. Stale is bad. Always go to Git. Git is fresh. Right? Git is always fresh. It is as fresh as whenever it says it is, the last one. So go to source, and here's the source. And source is always, at least in chef context, always stored on GitHub, like this. So here the Mike the Man, this guy, whoever that is, Mike the Man, he is the lead developer of Nginx Cookbook. And the community has acknowledged that by giving him a link back from here. So there are many people who have Nginx cookbooks. The community has chosen to give him the acknowledgement as the source, as opposed to other people. And let's see who are the other people that have. There are 533 people who have modified the cookbook. So you don't want to get random ones. You want to get from the, now how do you know, should I go to Mike or John? The way is to find out this location, view source from this link. It will take you to the community authenticated location. Like this is the primary location that everybody should be getting from. From here, you go HTTPS, and there's a classic clone configuration. So you can clone it. You can clone the whole thing, including all the history, and take it to wherever you want. Remote, it's easy to clone on a remote computer. Just git clone, boom. Tarball does not give you history, correct. If you want a quick short lesson on what actually it gives you, I will do this clone locally and show you. So here is how you go. So I have this tarball in ls-la nginx. Let's see what we have. Right, you find the folder contains these files, and there is no folder called .git. Just notice that. Right, there is no .git folder here. Now I will delete that delete the tarball download completely. Sorry, what am I doing? It's gone. Now I have nothing. And I'm going to clone it now. And now see what happens. Inside that clone, what we get is I'll go to Nginx, and here I see what I have. Lot more stuff. I got git, I got git ignore, kitchen, and all the dot files that are not there in the tarball. I don't need them, but it's good to have them. You can go and look at the history inside and see what it contains, and you can see the entire history of the cookbook development like this. It goes back years and years. Yeah, everything. Yeah, so this is the date on which it was added back in 2009. January 17, 2009, Adam Jacob first created this cookbook. And you can see any date point in time entry, in the latest one being Mike Fielder, MikeTheMan, gmail.com, 15th of September, 2014. So they have the whole history of the how cookbook was developed, timestamp by timestamp, already preserved inside that git clone if you clone it. If you don't git clone, you don't get the history. It's okay, you don't need the history every time, but that's what git clone gives you, the history. You can get rid of history by deleting the git folder like this. And this will remove the history. Now it is not a git folder anymore. No, you lost the whole thing. You just got the tarball now. The tarball in this location may be a bit stale. So caution here, can be a little stale. You do not necessarily want the tarball. It's always better to get from Git. And another thing to look at when you get from Git is that the branches. Sometimes they define various branches like kitchen and master and MikeTheMan specs. And sometimes you look at tags, and tags is a good way to mark what you have. So you can actually go, think of it as version numbers of the cookbook, and you can tag it to, I want 270, and I'll lock it there. And this is probably May 15th of 2014, not September 15th, but that is okay. Or maybe not June 6th, but that is okay if you want that. Or you can go to master, and master is 23 days ago. So the master may not be good for production, may not be. Caution. And that's a good practice to think of in any kind of distribution in community, is to look at tags, because tags are defined as collective intelligence operating on defining what is considered as stable. It may not be stable, but that's what people think it is, right? At the end of the day, you need to find out, is it stable for you? And if it is stable for you, then you lock it, and you lock it and you preserve it. You can also go to the extent of defining what you want in your environment. Yes, and that's the next topic I want to go into. So what I will do now is go back to where we were, just a little bit here. And let's look at this Nginx page again. And you will find that in that page, it says, okay, why doesn't it open? Yeah, it opened. So it says you have 46 versions available, right? All these versions. You can take any version you like. 46 of them available. However, I want to use this thing called librarian. Is a software I want to now use to specify what I want to use in my environment, in my work environment, in my workstation. What do I want to use? Which specific version of cookbook do I want to use? I can say I want 222, and that is okay. And that's the line I will put in my librarian. Default is typically the latest. It may not be master. Master can be a little newer. Tags are usually like this. Master can be a little newer. Master is anytime the developer feels like checking and committing, that's the master. It's the tip of the iceberg, right? You can have intermediate steps or staircases to reach the iceberg, but master is the tip. They're building it up on top, keep adding stuff. Anytime the developer feels like it's okay to check in, he just checks in. That becomes the master. You do not necessarily want the master all the time. Sometimes the master is good. But these numbers are predefined version numbers that are considered to be good by the I think of released. They're not candidates, they're released. They're released. They're marked as released. The community considers it to be good. It may not be good for you, but they think it is good. That's how open source operates, right? These guys will group together, you know, create issues, resolve issues, address issues, meet and say, you know what, that looks good, let's label it something. And then when they label it, they put a tag, and that's it. So at some point, when they put a tag, this becomes equal. But the very next moment, it can change. Master can change. The tag stays. 3 days down the road, something new develops, and the master becomes new master. And then you have 275. Fine. But the very next moment, master can change. That's how flow works. So you can pick and choose what you want, and you nail it and lock it down. I want this. Or maybe I want this. It's your choice. Whatever works in your configuration, you need to lock it. And so there is this aspect of what is known as a librarian. Is a gem available that helps us manage what we want, what we need. It is like requirements.txt in Python. It is like package.json in JavaScript. It is like gem file in Ruby. It is like librarian, and a librarian chef file. It will create a chef file when we invoke it. And we will, inside that chef file, call out what we want and then use it. It is very similar in the concept of what in a gem file is to Ruby. Inside, we define what gems we want. And so we can list out Ruby gem. Let's call it a gem. Let's look at some examples. Yes. Yes, form XML in Java, same thing. Yeah. In Maven, yes.
So what do you call it?
No, chef file. The file is called chef file. The tool we use is called librarian because it gets us the books we want. So essentially, we can tell librarian, go get the cookbook for me, and it will get it for you. Yeah. Yeah. So that's our next exercise. I want to show you what we need to do in terms of writing a chef file, and then ask librarian to get a cookbook for us, because this cookbook that we got download and git clone is not very hacky. I would do a proper process of defining my chef file and ask librarian to go get books for me, please. And the librarian will go and grab them and put them in the right location. So we don't have to do it. No, you define your default. Yeah, it will take the topmost. Yeah, it will take the topmost. If you just say nothing, it will get the latest, like this. So let's now look at a a gem called librarian gem. And this is what I intend to use. The installation is one-liner. It says gem install librarian. And this is the write-up as to how to use. So here is the install line. Install line is, hold on, make it big, and like this. Gem install librarian chef. This will install a gem on your machine, the remote computer, which will enable you to be able to use librarian on demand. The librarian will expect one file called chef file in your current folder, and then whatever you say will bring it down and put it in the right location. So I'll now demonstrate that. First thing, I'll install librarian chef in this location. Ruby is the language. Yeah, the gems are the Ruby gems, yes. Chef is also using Ruby left and right everywhere. Yes. Yes, chef is written in Ruby and uses Ruby. All cookbooks are Ruby. Everything we do in this class is Ruby. Just so you know. Yeah. Now you know. So in here we have a folder called cookbooks, by the way. So I'm going to erase that folder completely, or maybe just rename it. I'll mv cookbooks to a folder called Nilesh for now. Just call it Nilesh. Right. So I do not have a cookbooks folder anymore. I have some files here, and you know what we have here in that folder. So now I'm going to create a new file called chef file. Essentially, that's what I want, and I want to invoke librarian. And when I do that, no, I think in my machine I have it already installed, but you need to install it using this command. Yes, sudo. Yes, yes, sudo. So our purpose of using librarian is to have librarian help us grab cookbooks. That's our sole purpose right now. So it expects a file called chef file in the current folder, which we don't have. So when I ran librarian-chef, all it did was show me the command, how to use it. And what I need to now do is to initialize it. I'll say librarian init, like this. The help itself says, I'll just run it like this. And it'll initialize and do something. Let's see what it did. It creates a chef file. Yeah. So I'll open that chef file itself in an editor and see what it contains. And it contains mostly nothing. So we look at chef file, and it's kind of blank. Most is comments. Most of it is comments, except one line which is useful, which is line number 4. And that line says, where do you get these cookbooks from? Go to supermarket.getchef.com, use the API version number 1, and then grab the cookbooks that we want you to grab. And so if you want to now grab Apache cookbook, this is what you do. Line number 8, you uncomment it and go back to terminal and run librarian again. Yes, that's what I did. I just uncommented it. I didn't even bother any modifications. I did nothing else, just uncomment, save, and come back. And here I say librarian install. And what it is going to do is study my chef file, look at what we have in the community, and grab anything that is needed to make Apache work. It downloaded 4 cookbooks and placed it inside a folder called cookbooks. Let's go and see what it has. Yeah, it just downloaded 4 cookbooks, and they are placed inside a folder called cookbooks, which got created, by the way, because I renamed my existing cookbooks folder to Nilesh. So now we have a folder called cookbooks, and this Nilesh is the old one I don't care about. And cookbooks folder has more cookbooks, 4 of them. Indeed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Librarian chef install, the very top line on the screen is the command sequence that we initiate that will, first of all, look if you already have a cookbooks folder, and if so, use it. It will also get whatever cookbooks that you wanted it to get and place it in the right locations, which happens to be the cookbook folder. That's what you prescribed and specified. So that's how it builds up, right? You're getting the perspective of how we go grab cookbooks easily. It's actually very, very easy. If you want the latest Apache cookbook, you just go to the community site and say, you know what, I don't want this old cookbook. I want to get the latest cookbook. So what is the latest number, please? It seems to be download 2.0. Okay, 200 is the number. So I'll go here and make it 200 and save and chef file, and then come here, clear, and librarian chef again. And now we have Apache 2. because you just told it to strictly, very strictly follow chef file. And so whatever you do, whatever you say is what it will do. So you said chef file, Apache version 2.0.0 or better. This is or better. Yeah, there's a greater than symbol, right? So or newer. So it will go bigger version or at least equal to that. So it will grab that and clean up your folder of cookbooks, like absolutely wipe it clean and bring back new ones. So it gives you a method of managing cookbooks in concept, right? So another line would be something similar to, let's say I want to get Nginx cookbook also. What I will do is go find out what the Nginx cookbook version number I really want. Maybe it is 274. So I will go to Nginx, and there is a line ready for me to copy actually. I can just take that line, copy, put it in my chef file like this, and I'm done. It gives you a line to copy whatever cookbooks you want from the community site. Gives you a ready to configure line. Just take that line and put it in your, so let's say MySQL cookbook if I want. It's again trivially simple. Just search MySQL here in the supermarket and you get the line here. Just take that line, copy, take it to chef file, paste, save, done, and install. Aha. And this is one of the reasons why it just completely wipes out your cookbook folder. And now it has tons and tons of cookbooks downloaded. Like we have these 13 or so. Because we added MySQL and Nginx and Apache, so 3. So all the dependent cookbooks also it brought down. It is a good practice to not keep your work in the cookbooks folder. Instead, you keep it in this other folder that I have renamed as Nilesh, and I'm going to rename it as Site Cookbooks for now. That's a good convention to use. So I'm going to MV that folder and call it this. So the convention would be to use a folder called Site Cookbooks. Like this name is wherever you make your modifications, and cookbooks folder is where librarian will get it for you. That's a good convention to use. It's a good practice. These names are not, sanctity. You can choose whatever names you like, but people seem to use these names just to have a convention between what I change versus what the community changes. And the whole world changes, and we don't want to get randomized, so we lock down a version by chef file like this. You can go very disciplined and say, exactly that version is what I want, nothing different. So lock it down. No greater than symbols, no less than symbols. Lock it exactly. I don't want to deviate because I want to freeze my environment. I don't want to get randomized by community changes. So I want to lock it down, and I can lock like this in a chef file. And you will also notice that it creates, so let me run it again one more time, which is librarian chef install. And you will notice that as a new file gets created, the file is called cheffile.lock. And it's very similar to gem file lock, but it locks down all the dependencies and all the version numbers to the minutest level of detail to make it happen. And that's a lock file. And this is chef file. Right now we have 3 lines. And you can, further go and define. If you have a private cookbook that you create, let's say, I have a cookbook called Boeing, and it's, yeah, yes, yes, yes. If you release your cookbook across the company, you can actually put them in like this. I'm going to show you now. And so if you create a 787 cookbook, for example, for call it Boeing cookbook, and release it like this in a Git repository for internal use or external use, depending on your permissions, private cookbook or private Git or public Git. You can define it like this and the company can use it. And in that case, it becomes a community cookbook for your purposes. And so you can then put them in a cookbooks folder, and individual developers or modifiers or people who change will keep their changes in site cookbooks and have the entire company use the same common 787 cookbook and distribute that through a Git repository. You can do that custom distribution. Don't have to go to the community. Keep it within your company, within your Git repository. You can even GitLab. Forget GitHub, GitLab. Like this. You have it internal, so use it. It'll work. Yeah. And you can even go to the extent of defining a particular reference in your Git. Like this. A reference you may have for performance improvement of a 787 flight, or I don't even know, but any tag you can put any tag here. And then to that tag, you can then even regulate your own internal community and lock down. Because your community internal developers will keep modifying that cookbook. You want to further lock down, I want to have that tag I want, that tag I want. Lock it to that. And that removes variability. And you need to have a frozen environment for you to work, because you want to make it repeatable every time. Otherwise, what happens is, even if you have a company in all private, people who are developing this 787 cookbook will change something tomorrow. You can always refer to a reference point, which happens to be line number 14 here, the tag I want, that reference. Even if they keep changing, master, we don't care. In our work, we are referencing the tag I want, and it locks to that tag. This is conceptually very similar to the version number I want from the public community is the tag I want in my internal Boeing community, right? That's a way to lock it. Now, if you run it like this, it will not work because the thing doesn't exist. And so we discussed this chef file lock, which is a structure to lock it down, essentially. You understand that element. Right next to it. It's a sister. So here, sister file. Sibling. Same folder.
So the check point will say greater than or something like that, but check point.lock will tell you.
Exactly. Yes. And you can lock it. You can put that thing in a Git repository. In fact, that's what I would like to do next. Is whenever we work, anytime we work, put everything we do in a Git repository locally, right there, so we can deal with it very carefully. Any change we make, we have, I think in the first month we used Git. We put stuff in Git. Now we are actually creating something, at least starting to create something as we go along. We will put everything we do, any change we make, we'll put everything inside a Git repository. Right now it is a Git repository itself. So I want to clean it up because I have created a ton of mess. There's a lot of mess in here. So I want to clean up that mess by removing the Git repository completely like this. And it is gone. Now it's an empty folder and with some DS store that I don't really want. And so this is the files, the set of files I have. In fact, I would like to get rid of the site cookbooks also, which is kind of pointless. I want to get rid of the TMP folder also, which is pointless. And this is what I really want to keep for now. I thought I deleted the site cookbooks folder, didn't I? No. Now I did. Okay, so this is what I really want to keep. I got chef file. I have a cookbooks folder that librarian got for me. And then Node.json and solo RB and run chef solo, some of the commands that I know how to use and I want to keep them. But my question to you would be, do you want to keep all of these in a Git repository? Would you want to keep cookbooks folder also in the Git repository? Artifact, exactly. It's an artifact. It comes by the fact that librarian chef will grab it for you. So you want to exclude cookbooks and keep only chef file and chef file.lot. And then you would like to actually get rid of this also, like this. Sorry, like this. And this is exactly is actually meaningful. If you want to pass on something to a friend or a colleague, you don't want to give them entire cookbooks folder. They can always grab it. Just run librarian chef. It comes down. So you don't want to pass on junk. Yeah. Huge package for no reason, right? No reason. Why repeat? So the bare minimum thing you want to pass on is actually this. Now, when you run librarian chef and install it, it brings back whole bunch of TMP and all the cookbooks and all that, right? So there is a method in Git to exclude certain elements from getting checked in. Are you familiar with that method? It is called git ignore. So you can ignore certain things from appearing or getting checked in to Git. And you can ignore them very, very simply by creating a file, touch git ignore, and then edit that file, git ignore file, by writing the lines you don't want. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want anything like any usual craft that you don't want. You can put them here, and then you save. Oh, then you save, and that's how my git ignore looks like. 3 lines. The things that I want to ignore, actively ignore. And so now I'm ready to create a Git repository out of the bare minimum things I have, which are these. And as you know, I can then say git init.
These things will get into my GitHub.
Not GitHub, we're talking just Git. GitHub is a service. Git is local to you, local just to you, on that, not desktop, on that computer, local to that machine. In my case, I'm working here, but yes, on that machine is local to that machine. Nobody else can access it unless you give them a remote link, which you can. So I just created a Git repository in the current location, and then I'm going to say git add all the files here. And let's see what added. Git status. What does it show? It added git ignore, which is good. Chef file, good. Chef file lock, good. All other 3 things we want, good. And it did not add cookbooks, which is also very good. Did not add TMP, which is also very good. But we have those folders, but it did not add. We said add everything, and it conveniently ignored whatever we wanted it to ignore. So this is a clean way of packaging it and making it repeatable to a colleague, right? You want to give this to a colleague, you want to give them a Git link. Hey, you clone it, and they can repeat the whole thing, get all the cookbooks you need. And when you give it to a colleague, you want to tell them what to do. Like you want to advise them. Please run librarian-chef space install to actually grab the cookbooks. If you don't advise them, they will have no idea what to do. So you create a file called touch readme, readme.md. It stands for markdown. Yes, it reads like this. And it is a convention to use markdown as a file name for anything GitHub. Very common, very popular. I think it's not Git style, it's open source style. It is open source style of writing documentation. And a quick example is like this. So I'll say, hello, how are you, Srini? Right? I will never do that. You told me once, right? Yeah, no mistakes. Yeah, so so yeah, this is just an example I'm going to give you. I'm going to take this quickly go here for you to be able to understand what this markdown business is, because all other people know already, because I talked about it a couple of occasions ago. But here's a quick one. Compose. I'm sending a new message to Summer Home, and I'm saying hello. And in there, I paste this file in Markdown, right? And now the magic. Click, 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 click. See that? It's HTML creation, automatic. Now that you can debate with Conrad, whether it is a standard or not. I don't want to make any comments, but I think it is very useful. You can debate that. It's debatable whether it is standard or not. I don't want to comment. I find it useful. If you like it, please use it. It is open source. Browser, no, you have to add in. There's a plugin called, what is it called? Markdown here. So this is what is an add-in you can download, and it will make your email awesome. It's for Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Thunderbird, so all the browsers. I mean, most of the browsers, I should say. Not all the browsers, most of the browsers. Yeah, it's not a browser. Sorry. Oh man. So yeah, so that's what MD was. So you write a file like MD, and in that you document whatever you did, and the documentation would be something like this. You know what the documentation will look like? Install librarian, please. And next step is invoke librarian to grab cookbooks. That's the documentation you want to include to tell people that how to use it. And the step would be, yeah, gem install librarian. And in Markdown, you can create beautiful looking documentation very easily by just indenting it properly. So you can go indent in here, go 4 tab, just get just a tab will make it look like source code in look and feel. One single tab. Or you can go, or the other method of writing will be something like in triple backticks. Something like this, librarian chef install. You can write documentation like this very quick. That will advise your colleague to do what again with this? This is what you do. So you can get all the cookbooks, and then you save this file and include that in your Git like this. And so you have Git status now showing that you have a README documentation added on here. And then you Git commit. And you have a package ready that you can hand off by pushing this to GitLab internally, or by pushing it to GitHub externally and giving people a link. Go clone it. Right? That would be a workflow method of using it. You got that? I think you feel comfortable with pushing this and pulling down. I think you do. You need to practice if you haven't. Yeah, get I mean, learn Git. Yes. So then I can ask you, do you get it?
So when I tried to do the copy dash and command, it tell me who you are.
Yeah, first time. Yeah, so tell him who you are. Yeah, first time it'll ask you these questions. So let's do Git later. Maybe I'll help you with Git later on. And I have given a book. Sorry, not given a book. I have built a book with you. I should not say I given a book. You built it with us. We together we built a book from source. The book is pro Git by the creators of GitHub. So those people who wrote a book, they have given out source. We have built it here. You should also build it. Yeah. So I don't want to email it to you. I want you to build it. You can build it in a virtual machine that I haven't given you. So I'll give it to you. Remind me to give it to you. So inside the VM, you can build the book and then email it to yourself and use it. It's a book. Put it on an iPad or Android and just, it's a book. So this is the book we are talking about. It's a very good book, and the book is available online for free, and PDF for 25 on Amazon, PDF and EPUB. But if you build it yourself, it is yours. So we got the aspect of managing our structure of dealing with a bunch of cookbooks, right? Just to get the concept right. Now, what I want to be able to do is one more exercise. I think it's a good one. I think Mike has already completed that, but most of you haven't. At least I haven't seen it. So you may have. And the idea would be to create a resource called file resource and inject that file resource into the cloud, into whichever machine you want, and then have an index HTML file created with, says like, oh, chef works, or how are you, or something like that. Did you do that step yet or not yet? You did, right? Like, chef really works. Yeah, that part. You did that. I saw you last time. But the idea is to, all of us up until now, we have seen a basic Ubuntu page with Apache running, or we have seen a page Nginx running, which we have. But that's not how services get deployed. You actually deploy something useful, something meaningful. So to kickstart that, I'm suggesting that you please deploy something. And for that, you need to include a resource, file resource to be specific. And it looks like this. I'll tell you where to find information and documentation for that. And here is how you should do it. It describes here. So if you want to, for example, create a file called tmp something with these permissions, you create the file. That's one example. You put that in your action, in your cookbook itself, like the main cookbook you had. Right? That will create a file in that location and set these permissions 0755 for you. Or you can even go to the extent of including a file itself. So you give it a sample file, index.html. Go use this file, and I want you to put that file in the right location. The right location should be what? Again, that's a good question for you. You should study the documentation and find out where should that file go. Meaning, I want you essentially to create this file called index.html that says hello, and place that file in the right location. In the right location would probably be this location, where www, if I'm remembering it right. To place it in that location using chef. In another run, when you run chef again, I want you to modify your cookbooks so you're able to place a resource called index.html that contains a line hello in the location which it should be. Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. htdocs is for Red Hat. Ubuntu is this 9. Ubuntu is line number 9. But check documentation. Don't go by what I'm saying. Look at the documentation, find out where it should be, and then place it at the right location. Place that file resource in the right spot. Yes, you want to modify the main cookbook, the main default recipe that you have, main recipe default, that file we have. You want to modify that particular file to now include a resource, a file resource called this name containing this content hello, and place that resource in the right location. I'll not even tell you what the right location is. You need to study whether you're using Apache or Nginx, your choice. And depending on the choice of server, you need to find out what location should be for your operating system of target, and then put it in the right location. So when you open the page, it should say hello, as opposed to whatever it says. Yeah, that was a welcome page. So the easiest way to find out what that location should be is to actually visit the machine and find out where the welcome page is located. I think it is this, but it might change a little bit, depending on what you have. So just examine that location, go around, look for it. It already exists. You want to knock it off and put your page in that spot.
I just did a library install after I cleaned up all that thing.
And I hope you saved your main cookbook. Did you? Or you knocked it off? I think it knocked off. But don't worry. No worries. You can clone it again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I think you knocked it off, but it's okay. You can create it. No checkpointing. You just go clone again, and that will bring it. So yeah, come a step back. cd dot mv using, and then git clone. So something called Srini. And now clone, and you get a fresh copy of the exercise itself, which will give you everything as it was to begin with. You need to go back to a browser and then open Classroom. There is a link, classroom.google.com. Yep, one of these. Yep, that's exactly the way. With the default location is little different, slightly different. If you go when you run Nginx, you go in the machine itself, find where the place is for the index file. It shows some index file here, right? It will be not the thing that you expect. So the best way to locate this location, this is a text file somewhere, index file somewhere. Go to the machine, I'll tell you where it is. Are you on that machine?
Yeah.
Okay, go to cd/etc. cd/etc. etc Nginx. Sites and available. A, enter. ls default cat. Somewhere here you will locate it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. There are lots and lots. So go back to this classroom. Click arrow. It's like Facebook.
Yeah.
So lots of stuff. The work we are doing right now is an exercise called using Chef Solo. So go scroll a little bit. You will find it. Using Chef Solo is the name. Not this. Yes, that's it. So this is where line number cloning line is here.
This is like your report.
Yes. Yeah, my homework to begin with, like what the work we started off with, that's the clone. So you clone it, you get the whole thing as we started off. Then you can modify the way you want, or make your changes you like to get to the outcome we want.
From the home.
You can either work in your original or the new one you're going to get. You got two using Chef Solo now. One of them is the original, and the other one's actually the original.
So I haven't done that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you have to give your GitHub pass name, which is Sama Home, and then password I don't know. So this will clone the one I gave you to begin with, and then you have another one. So you know the difference now.
So I can go into any of those.
Yes. Michael is funny. Oh, I think you are. Yes. So this is the location you want to add a new resource. Read line number 7, which says, find a way to add a file resource. So you go read chef documentation on how to add a file resource. That's how in real life you would do is go read the doc and find out how do I add a file resource in chef. And yeah, actually it's agnostic. It's a file resource. Like you can drop a file wherever you like in the entire file tree. You can create a file, set its permissions the way you like it. Path is specific to application, but a file resource is a file resource. It's agnostic to anything else. You can just drop a file wherever you want with whatever permissions you like. Chef runs as root. You can do whatever you want in Chef, and boom, it will get you the right link. No, Google. It's easier to Google search than to do Chef search. Right? Google will search properly, as opposed to anybody else. Right? Welcome to not Nginx. Yeah. So the idea essentially is that you are placing a file resource, and you just did. You're creating a new file called TMP something, and you set its permissions. And yeah, where do you want to place it? Not TMP. You want to know the location. The way you go finding that location is either you read the documentation or do a cheat. And I'll show you the cheat also. The cheat is to actually go look at where this page itself is, and then use that as opposed to reading documentation, right? Yeah, so I can tell you how to cheat. I mean, it's not illegal, so it's okay to say that. So CD enter. So this is Nginx running, right? CD. No, don't go anywhere. I just think, do you want to locate the Nginx? Do you want to locate Nginx? So if it is Nginx, you go to CD/etc Nginx, and then look at the sites available and find out where the file is. That's a cheat, right? So open it up. There's a default file there. So go ls, the default, open it up, read it, and you will find the location. And there it is, right there. Yeah, and that's how you can cheat. I mean, it's okay. It's a shortcut to find out exactly where it is supposed to be. The user share Nginx HTML. That's the path. For Nginx, that's the path. You're doing internal stuff. I think it is easier to use Nano, honestly. Don't struggle with VI is what I'm saying. VI is, if you're born with it, you better you use VI. If you're not born with VI, don't even go there. It's painful. Just skip VI. Your Nano, much simpler. Your life will be simpler. You think of it this way: do you want to really get something done, or hit your head against the wall?
No, so I got :WQ.
It's okay. :WQ and exit. At least you know how to get out of it. I mean, that's the good thing, right? You at least know how to run. So I'm suggesting run. Don't go there. Don't go VI. I mean, honestly, do not. If you're born with VI, of course, like most Japanese people are born with a camera. Okay. But no, Nano is good. Yeah, somebody posted it. Or you, or maybe the other class. I get confused. Somebody posted a good tutorial on how to use VI. Don't listen to VI people. They're horrible. Yeah, Nano is good. There are bad people. They're born with VI.
Yeah.
It is so hard. I mean, just please trust me.
Somebody is sending me
in VI.
You tell them, you should use VI. Tell them you should absolutely use VI. Don't make me use it. Tell them I'm a human, man. What do you think I am? That's right. But these days it's mouse. So even Nano is. No, he's hitting at me. He's, he's hitting back at me. Just let me tell you, I do not work at Microsoft anymore. I'm done with it. Done with it.
Also, I had to go up on my Microsoft machine
Huh.
because nothing else was open up that library file.
I know. The Notepad++ will probably do it. Huh. Wow. Okay. Nice. You're opening a file in Notepad? Yeah. Okay. A database file in VI. Wow. We have something here going on.
No,
You're not in the right location. You know, create a chef file first. It needs to have a chef file. It did not find a chef file.
So I'm here. All I did is like went into cookbooks. Let's
Mhm.
see, name. Let's see.
Mhm.
Follow this out.
Great. Now, I would like you to ask you a question. Do you intend to use chef file and chef a librarian or not? You want to use, then first thing you want to do is to rename your cookbooks folder to site cookbooks, because librarian will come and destroy the whole thing, right? You want to rename it first thing, and then you create a chef file which gets created by running librarian-chef init initialize. It will initialize the empty chef file for you, and then you run librarian chef dash install librarian dash chef slash space install, and then it will install the cookbooks for you, and it will wipe the whole cookbooks folder like clean, like completely gone. So all your work is lost. So you want to rename it first.
Oh, so there is already existing version of cookbooks. It won't.
It will like clean it up. So the role of librarian is to follow your instruction. The instruction you give it to librarian is through chef file, and chef file says, initial chef file says nothing. So it will get you nothing.
Nothing, right?
Yeah.
So librarian chef.
Init librarian dash chef init. It will initialize a chef file. It's an empty file, right? You want to edit that file and add whatever you want, and in there you can add, you know how to find what to add, right? You have to go to the community site and get what you need. So the chef file can be empty, it may be stale. Community site is usually the most up to date, so you want to actually type the word market, whatever, the supermarket something, yeah, and in there you search for whatever you want and get a line from there to put it in your chef file, and that's the line you use. There it is. Copy that, take it to your chef file, and delete everything else. You don't want these lines at all, like none of them. You want to strike Apache line, and strike all the commentary also. We don't need all of that. Less is more. Yeah, less is more. Yeah. Kill it, save it, and you're done. Yeah. Yeah, just Nginx. Now you can run librarian right now, which will wipe your cookbooks completely, install. Okay. Right, so you can run librarian chef install, and it will create a new folder and then drop your cookbooks you need in that location. And there it comes. So it got you all the cookbooks you need, dependent as well as Nginx. So all you needed is now inside of cookbooks folder. Next action we really need to do is to make sure that our site cookbooks.
No, I want to see if the file resource got created, right?
No, that you have to manually create. File resource is not, it's custom work, so you have to do it somewhere.
I thought file resource is like initially it will set up your
The way I would,
rendering,
and it's okay, it's totally fine. The way I would suggest to simplify, yep, or I'll go and write it for you. You don't carry paper like me. I don't carry either. It's okay. Fine, I'll go right there. Don't worry. You want a pen? I'll give it. I have a pen. Here.
So what initially like we have this using solo, using check.
Using Chef Solo. That's a starter exercise, right? Just to get us started.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's very simple. All it gives you is a folder with a cookbook, 2 cookbooks, and a place to invoke it. That's it.
So now my main cookbook, or you call recipe or cookbook?
Cookbook is a collection of recipe. In the case of main, we just have only one. It's a cookbook with 1 page.
So here main we added file resource.
Yes, you have to invoke it.
So got that user share, user home,
Mhm.
platform.
Yeah, whatever that location was.
Whatever. So when we
It will create that file. Just like it starts Nginx, enables it, install, start, enable.
so it would have started.
No, no, you have to run it. You just run librarian. You haven't run Chef yet.
So we're setting up the directory structure
Mhm.
by through library install. Library.
Yes, correct.
So now if I really run, so far I have done the check.
No, you probably have run in a past attempt,
Right.
but not with this context. So you can on the same machine. You should actually make sure that you are doing whatever you're doing in the other folder. Do you remember what you did in that folder? Because that will collide with what you're doing in this folder.
So I can say like librarian.
Librarian dash chef install you already did.
Already did, yeah.
So right now you want to actually invoke this cookbook. This cookbook is not in the right location as it expected, right? This cookbook, it doesn't have main.
Main.
So you need main here. So you can either you move main manually for now, but I will next time what we will do is specify in our JSON file 2 locations. One is for site cookbook and the other is for cookbooks. And then give priority to site cookbooks over the other. And then we can say, go run main. Then it will run main. It knows where to go and look. Right now in our write-up, it knows only to go to the cookbooks folder. It doesn't even know that there is a folder called site cookbooks because we never told it.
So my site cookbooks have got a main.
Yes. Yes. So site cookbooks has main. For now, I would suggest you move your main from site cookbooks to cookbooks, but remember to not run librarian again because it will wipe it.
It will wipe out again.
Yeah. For now, just move the main folder to the cookbooks folder, and then invoke it, and it will do it for you. Exactly like that. Yes. And now don't run librarian.
Yeah.
Just run chef from the last line in your terminal in your shell script. And your resource creation is not complete yet. I think you're just setting permissions and a file, but you did not define what the file contains.
Right.
Contents are not defined. So you need to go look for how do you specify content of that file. So you need to, like this welcome Nginx page that comes along, that's what the default page is. You need to find out what do you want to write in that index page. Like I suggest you write hello, right? That's what I suggested, line number 11 there on the screen. I suggest that you write hello in the file. You can write whatever you want, but in the index HTML file, you write hello.
I did that, but after that I ran this command, it just won't just last.
Yes, the last line.
After that, it should come.
Depends on what you have in your main cookbook. So it is starting chef and did it action create, use file got created, right? It installed Nginx and then started enabled for the file location you have. Just go check that location and see if there is a file like that. Go where www.html, see if that file location contains that file or not. The way to check that will be go cd/var, cd space/var/www/html, enter and say ls, and you will find the file is there, but it is not picking up, right? That's the problem, right? Yes, see the file is there, but it is not picking up because that's not the right location it should be for Nginx. This is good for Apache, not for Nginx. So you need to find out what that location for Nginx should be by looking at Nginx documentation or by cheating. You know how to cheat? Just ask Nginx, hey, where did you keep the file? So go in there and ask Nginx by going cd/etc. So there are some Unix conventions here that people are expected to know if they're cheating. Like I'm giving the cheat method. So convention, it is that everything about configuration is stored in a folder called /etc. So that's where we go, and then go inside Nginx folder. All the configuration is stored here. That's a convention in Unix. So you go inside Nginx. No, double. Nginx. And then in here, you look at sites available folder. There it is, available or enabled. You're one of these two. Okay. And here you find a file called default. You want to read that file because that will give you the answer you need. Now this is applicable only if you know Nginx. Then you will know where the files are, and you can always go cheat route. The proper route is actually study documentation from Nginx as to where do they expect the file to be. And the location is this. Where is that? Up on top, up on top. All the way on the top of this one. Yep, that should be the location, and then you will see it. The last line in the terminal script. Yes, just run it. Oh, you need to modify that line. Look at the original repository you have, and then grab the line from there. Wow. Okay, let's do it again. You do not find main folder because you got wiped out. Did you run librarian? Okay, so it wiped it out. So when you run librarian, it just like completely erases cookbooks folder and creates a new one for you based on what your chef file says. It will again wipe it out. No. It will again empty your cookbooks folder, but what you really want is your main folder back.
Yeah.
The main folder is given in the initial assignment. It's gone. So you can bring it back by another trick that I can bring it for you by resetting Git. So here's what I would do is I will first of all go one step back and MB. Call it something else, right, like this. Your good work, all, and then you git clone. So the main recipe got wiped out completely because you ran librarian. The whole purpose of librarian is to clean your cookbooks folder and align it with what you say you want it to be like in your chef file. So it will completely wipe it off. Passwords. You should use something like a lastpass.com. No, it's free service.
I don't remember anything.
It is free password, free service. Don't buy it. If you don't know about that free service, use this. It is called lastpass.com. It will help you remember all your passwords for free. Yeah, don't pay. It's good service. People trust it. One password to remember. The last password you will ever remember. That's the advertisement. And it runs on Android and everything. It's a good one.
Also now I have to install it.
No, just look at the main inside this folder. You will look at what you have. So you can just copy that portion back to the good work you have done. And you're done. So take this main, move it to the other. And the main to the other location. And you're done. Mostly. It'll be cd dot dot mv. I can tell you what it is. mv main, then the, home. Go home tilde no home tilde this one slash u capital and tab. One more dot tab. There it is. Slash cookbooks. Tab. Enter. There you got it. You go to the other location, which is the all the good work location. Dot. And you work inside here, and you have it. You have now the main cookbook in there. The main got wiped out because you ran librarian. But the idea is that you understand that you fixed it now. Srini, thank you for using NGX. You got it. I think you're also there. This can work. Still need to learn VI. No, you don't need to learn VI. There is no technical requirement to learn VI. It's just a nerdy thing. If nerds will hurt you, it's just pinpoint the fact that you don't know VI every time they look at you, but it's okay. That's how nerds behave. No problem. So here you want to include elements of a file resource. Yeah, that's the way to create file.
Anywhere.
Yeah, at the end is good. At the end is good.
So this is the place where.
This is the place where you should place it. So what is that place where it should go? And what should the file contain? What the permissions of the file should be? All these questions we need to answer and then write them down in our cookbook and then run it, and we are done. Right? It's little, the work really here is to identify what do we want the outcome to be. And then once we define it, then we are mostly done. All we need to do at that time is to run chef. And then it will do whatever we said we would, what we would want. It'll do that for us. Yes, so you define in your main cookbook, the main is the name. You can call it whatever you like. The starting point happens to be, in our case, the name main. And so we're using that as a starting point. And in there we define what do we want. We want it to run Nginx, Apache, whatever we like, and then create a file resource. It contains whatever we want to make it contain, like line number 11, and then place it in the right location. Depending on Apache or Nginx, you put the right location can differ. You read documentation, and then right back in your main cookbook, identify what location should it go. The location needs to be defined in where that line number 13 is saying which is the right spot for the file to go. What should the line contain? Line number 11, hello. Or it can contain whatever you want. The file name itself, which is line number 9. Permissions of the file can differ from application to application. Some applications require a file to be having www-data as the user, as opposed to root as the user, and group. The owners and groups should depend on the application itself. Like in the example that I would like to just say is this Apache expects the file to be in this location, 16. And in Nginx expects it to be in this location, something else that Mike will update. You already know what that location is. I don't remember it. And then in Ubuntu, the expectation is that you run not as a user, but as www data as the user. So these details are provided by the documentation for Nginx for that particular web server. They will tell you what the name should be for that OS to use that name. You can also use a custom name for your environment. You can use the name, your personal name, you run it as that process. But ideally, you don't run it as a root process. You run it as somebody else. Like in this example, it will be www-data is what the convention is for running Nginx in Ubuntu. So that's the owner and group permission you want to set. So that when Nginx is running as that process, as the owner of that user and group, it will be able to read the file, modify the file as needed, and the permissions need to be accurately updated. So a file resource contains a couple of things. The file itself, the file name, the content of the file, where would you place it, who has the user permission, who has the group permissions, and permissions will correspond to RWX. RWX, you familiar with that construct, right? So who can read, modify, execute on a user level, group level, and others. And that permission set is also definable in a file resource. If you go look at your Chef documentation for creating a file resource, you can actually figure out how to make these changes. And most of you already done that part. You already know how, at least segments of it you can read from the documentation. You bring it back to your main cookbook. Main is the starting point for we have. And then you put in these elements line after line, which basically calls out what our outcome should look like. And then you run Chef, and you're done. Practically, that's all it takes. You need to know the outcome. You need to define it succinctly, and lock down as much as you can lock it to keep yourself stable and without variations. Is using things like Chef file, things like gem file, or requirements.txt, or form.xml, or any other such construct that basically defines a well-written boundary. This is what my infrastructure should be. This is what my development environment should be. This is what my anything should be, and lock it down hard. And don't let it change randomly, because if you change it, you need to tell everybody in the team, hey, we are now using 273 as opposed to 272. And there may be some variations that you will get people by surprise. You want to minimize surprises and make such changes at a well-known point in time. Like everybody knows we are going to change it, so prepare for it. Send out a notification in the team, so everybody prepares for it. And at the very same time, you bump your Chef file a little bit, bump the version, do a git commit, and push. So everybody will then pull, not clone. Next time is pull. So they pull, and they'll do a refresh on their librarian. So the librarians will get new cookbooks, and everybody else again has the same blueprint, a common environment. So all of us together can function consistently without having to worry about, hey, what are you running and why doesn't it work on my machine? Like those problems are very common. You can get rid of those problems very easily by making it repeatable, not just across in time, but among people, like among the team. And if you're developing something, it may be among you, as you develop something, define it and lock it down and make it repeatable for you. And all you hand off is not everything, just what you should in Git, and give instructions. So they don't have to call you. How do I do it? What do I do now? And tell me again, how do I use VI? You don't want those questions. So, write it simple. I'm not pointing you, but, I used to be like that at some point when I was not born with VI, by the way. So, so yeah, write documentation nicely, succinctly in the Git commit itself. Call it readme.md. People know what to read. They'll read it. They'll figure it out and do it on themselves without having to bother you. So make it repeatable across the team is a good practice, which begins. It's a culture change. It's a people change. It's a people problem essentially. Is you're changing people's behaviors by asking them to do something different, right? First thing is, okay, do everything in Git. I mean, that's the first rule of discipline. Like big change itself. Wow, what is Git? I don't get it. That's the first bottleneck. And then this concept of pushing, pulling, cloning, sharing, collaborating, making it repeatable across team members, and then keep it repeatable in all the way from your development environment to your product, to your staging, testing, pre-production, and final launch when it goes live to the customer. Make the entire thing repeatable. And then you get a point where you can actually say, I will ship my software every night, and I will have Emirates Airlines use my software every night. New one, little bit different, updated based on what they want. I'm just figuratively saying these things, but you see what the point is to. I do not, I do not know these things, but I'm just giving you figurative examples as to how in concept you can pull it off. I do not know the Emirates law. I don't even want to know. I don't go that direction.
Created the file index.html, but I didn't create the content. If you see, if I look at Google name, the default, so I didn't put any my.
You should put content.
So I went and manually edited here. Like I went and.
No, manual is bad. No, manual is bad. You should no. Manual is bad. I mean, no.
So if I want it, sorry.
You want to create that file. So do another resource of creating a content in that file. So look for that, and then drop the content through programmatic method. Doing it by hand, anybody can. That's not the point.
So,
it doesn't make it repeatable.
so I can say file.
Yeah, create file. That's what you want to do essentially, right? So look for documentation on how do you create something. Now, this will create an empty file. You want to drop something in it, right? Yeah. So go look for that. I'm deliberately not giving you the answer because I want you to find it yourself. So go to Google searches. Google searches are better than other searches in general. I would go even more specific. The way I would search is, say, create index HTML through Chef. That's precise. It will give you the answer somewhere. Play with it. You can skip the word through is useless word. Yeah. Google will ignore through. So there it is. These links will give you, one of these three links will give you exactly what you want. And in real life, most people work just like this, like Google searches, right? You know how I work, you know how you work. And so you go to that site, read. If you find something interesting, grab it and use it and see how it works out. It's all test environment right now, so it's okay to play with it. Yeah, play with Google searches. The more efficiently you search, the more efficient you become as a person. It's not, things have changed. When I was growing up, information itself was power. It is not anymore. Not anymore. Information is not power. The ability to find information is the power. Like finding it quickly is very powerful. You don't need to remember anything. I absolutely do not remember anything whatsoever, but I know how to search. And that's how I think all of us are evolving. It's not about information. It's only, I have outsourced it to India. I mean, sorry, a hard disk. Outsourced it to a hard disk. Yes. Yeah. So he's creating using a template resource, right? That's what you want. And see, he's using an ERB file. So look at that construct. See what it is doing is a templatized structure to drop in to a real file using a template. So template is a resource. You want to look for
not using the bare bone file resource command. He's using
one more level of abstraction to use a template resource, and it will pass a template itself in a file folder inside your cookbook structure. And then through that template, you create a file based on the templated structure. So you understand templates already, right? Yeah. So exactly.
replace
Exactly. Dollar, replace that with the variable name with pass an argument. You can do that.
So maybe now it is doing through the ERB file.
Yes.
Source it,
Yeah.
then
ERB is a Ruby template. So you want to, in this example, what it is doing is taking index.html ERB as a source template and dropping it into that file as index.html. That's what this guy is doing. So this is just an example. You can use this. It will work. Yes, this will work. You can use it as, it may not work as is. You will still have to modify. You need to now search how to use a template resource. Right? How to use template resource is the way to search next. And then there is huge amount of documentation. Always trust the source documentation before any other documentation. It's all open source. All of it is on the internet. And exactly, that's how I would do, is go look at how they are implementing it, and you want to drop that. You have to, now you will have to provide the file called index.html ERB as a template. You have to provide it, which has to be placed again in a specific location called files folder, pre-created file that you drop it as a template. Yeah, so you, yeah, this is okay. You need to now create an ERB file, touch it and put it in a files folder. Let me show you. So what you're doing is a little next step, but it's okay. I'll help you with that. So just like you have this file resource, you just started off creating a new thing called template resource. That's what you are off to, right? So this template resource goes and sits in in a folder called files. It's somewhere in here. Where is the main? I lost my main. So like you have this folder called main, and inside there is only one folder called recipes. Right next to that should be a folder called files, and that's where you will drop template. You have to manually create it. Yeah. Here I'll give a similar example in another location. So site cookbooks, Nginx. Bad example. I don't have a good example here. I'll find another one. Here is a good one. So mine types. This is a template that is stored in a folder called default, in a folder called files, under Nginx recipe. You see that? And some rules for NAXSI core rules are defined in a file stored in a default folder inside files. Yes, files and then default and then index.html ERB as a template where you drop in your content, which is a templated content that you will drop into a real file in the real machine. Or you want to take a shortcut like these guys have done? You haven't done it yet? Oh, you haven't done it anything? Okay, then let me look at that. Okay, so I think the shortcut
So far, that's all
Yep.
I have.
So let's run it as is. Let's run it as is and see what it does, and we'll examine that. So we'll run the last line of our shell script, which is two more dots, one more, and in the last line is the way to run it. Run chef solo last line. So cd. Look at it and just run the last line. So just cat this file and you read the last line manually.
Which one?
Cat run enter tab sorry tab enter run tab enter, and the last line here. Oh, not here. The other folder. Yeah, the one I cloned. That folder. This using Chef Solo folder, and then in there, cat run tab enter, and the last line from here, which is the same thing as Chef Solo without the variable there.
So I have to go back.
And go back and see the dot, and in here just edit that file itself. Just vi edit it. Just keep it simple. Edit run Chef Solo. Let's edit that. Make it clean. Enter. You want to remove most of the lines and comment it out. Comment most of it. Oh, okay. sorry. Let me let me take it for you. I did not know. I'm so sorry. That's the problem with VI people.
I know it before I just.
Yeah, I understand. I'll take a shortcut. How about that? Simple. So this runs Chef, and what this will do is create a resource for you. So it created a file. Now check if that file is actually created. You go to that location, user share nginx HTML.
Way I can spawn another window.
You can do another terminal and log onto it again. Now you can do that by going like this. SSH again.
Oh,
Yeah.
log in again.
Yeah, SSH into that remote computer.
I was thinking a better way to launch it.
Yeah, you need to. There's got tmux. You can do that, but we are not there yet. If you have a hard time with VI, you have even harder time with tmux.
Yeah.
TMUX. Yes, it's fancy terminal. You have multiple sessions and all sorts of things.
Oh, so I did that and it put the HTML on the command line. Maybe because my nginx is already running. So my nginx is already running.
When you say spit, can you show me what you did?
Oh, what I did was.
This did you run Chef?
Yeah.
Okay.
I ran Chef.
Good.
So I ran this thing. Sudo.
Yep.
So it went through.
Yeah, so it's dumping on the screen because they're actually creating that file somewhere. So it created that file resource. So go look at the file itself.
So now if I go to
That location, user share and
oh,
user share. It posted that file there apparently. It dropped that file in the right location, and that's what it's saying that it did. So user share nginx, that's the location. And so you can cat it, promote it. See, it dropped the file. Now you should open a browser. That means it did not drop the file. No, Nginx has nothing to do with dropping files. No, not librarian. Chef will drop the file if you ask it to do so. Can I look at the main recipe again?
Here I have here I have looking at some resource here. So I think this is the way you want to template
Right. So this needs to create. Now I want to see your main recipe default. So I see you have a template created, and in there you want to see that what it's going to do is create that
Oh,
file resource.
Not the shared one, right? Oh, I think
This is a different location. So yeah, typo. Yeah, fix the typo. No. You need to modify this file
I see.
default RB and edit it to go to the Nginx location, not the Apache location.
Okay.
So it is putting it in the Nginx Apache location here.
Yeah.
You wanted this location in this place.
Sure.
Sweet. And knock that line off and run it again. And this time you want to go back 2 or 3 steps and then run your chef solo and see what happens. And it did. Yeah, I think it did. Open your browser.
So now, okay. So
Yeah, I think you got it. I think you got it. Yeah, you got it.
I didn't have the right.
Yeah. Location was wrong.
Location.
So, but you corrected it and you have it running now. So what you did is next logical step of using a template resource and then dropping it in a file. Yeah, it is absolutely powerful. You know, big companies use it. Big name companies are using it.
Who using to some things there?
Yeah, good to know. Yeah, but it is tremendously useful. You know, the beauty here lies in defining your outcome, writing it down, meeting with the team, sharing it, making it repeatable, and run. And ideally, like push software overnight, every single night. That's the outcome. That's what we want. We are not there yet. At least big companies are not there yet. Some big companies are, like Google. Not every big company is. You want to get there, so we can compete with Google on searches. I'm just kidding. Yes.
Mine didn't specify copy of having it created at all. If I look at this one here,
Mhm.
it seems like this is the default Nginx
Mhm.
index.html file.
Can I please look at your file name has a star at the end? What's going on?
Yeah,
Star should not be there.
I don't know what it is.
Okay. So using Apache here and Nginx here.
No.
Yeah, you did in the other folder. Your multiple folder confusion, I guess. That's what's going on. But it's okay. You can fix it.
Yeah.
And run it, and it'll work. It'll work. Make it Nginx, and it'll work.
Let me try.
Yeah. You use Nano. Come out of this. No, you make it Nginx first. :WQ or :WQ, and then go Nano, fix it, make it Nginx, and then run Chef, and then check your browser. It should be okay.
Done by
So it's done by people like you and me and him and everybody. It's a community product. It's our product. It's our property.
Sure. But
They are leading. They're leading in the community to create it. It's open source.
right. And then people write cook recipes.
Yeah, people contribute, and you can also contribute. And you know, if you become the best contributor, then your cookbook will get linked up in that marketplace, like Mike the Man is for Nginx, right? Srini the Man, yes, exactly. So you can become Srini. I mean, you are Srini the Man, no doubt, but you can get listed as the cookbook creator for a particular product that you support on, and community will recognize you and put your name on top as opposed to anybody else. If you produce the best cookbook, you will get highlighted. And people will use it. You will get followers. You will get lots of people cloning you, forking you, contributing with you, sending you thank you cards, donations. Yeah, Seattle. Yeah, yeah, Seattle company. Yeah, Ops Code is the name of the company. Yes, started about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 2008, and that's when I started using it. Yeah, really, really long time ago on my own. Yeah. I was, the person who started the company is my friend. So I started working with him on my own. Yeah, not contributed, but just used. No, I have not contributed to Chef. No, I've used it extensively. Everybody's using it. Or they either use Puppet or Chef, one of these two. That's basically similar. Basically very similar. Yes. Yeah, Puppet, Chef, Ansible, Salt, Babushka. Slightly different. Like Chef will use strictly all Ruby, Ansible will use all Python, and Salt will I don't know what, and Salt, SALT, sodium chloride, uh, as a chemical engineer, right? Yeah. You will understand it quicker. So Ansible, Salt, Puppet, Chef. Puppet uses somewhat like Ruby, but it is not standard Ruby. Chef is pure Ruby, just exactly standardized Ruby. And Puppet will use their own language, their own slightly, it looks like Ruby, but it's not Ruby. It's not strictly Ruby, Ruby-like. And they have Puppet Master as opposed to Chef Server. They have Puppet Daemon as opposed to. Both are powerful. Both are good. Even Puppet can do the whole. Any of these softwares can do. So I use this Chef because I know it. That's the honest truth. I've never practiced with Puppet, so why would I teach Puppet? Not that I don't like it, but I never used it. There's no feeling of animosity here, right? It's open source, so it's like you do whatever you like. Nobody's making money here, so there's no fight. It's not like Coke and Pepsi. Yeah, but in services, not in the product itself. Product is open source, both of them. Yes, but enterprise versions are essentially the same as the open source server versions.
Boeing, I think, will not use the free one, so
I
they
know.
pay.
They want to pay. I know. Because yeah, there are lots of things that you come. Right. There are lots of things that you get that are customized, and you want to pay for it, and you will get services, and all that good stuff comes along. And you can even get a company internal deployment of Chef if you want, managed by them. That is also possible. But again, I'm not going commercial, so I'm not going to advertise them or anybody else. We're just using it purely academic. How to get it to work in what we want. You can scale. You can scale on your own with pure open source if you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you can do it. You can run Chef solo and still scale. And I gave you an example with evidence. Did I? Let me show it to you. I haven't. Maybe I did. I keep forgetting what I said in the other class versus this class. So sorry. Give me a second. I'll pinpoint an evidence of an example, which a large company called Joyent Cloud, if you know this name, big name. They are a public cloud provider, Joyent. And these guys they're on record. They use, where is that? So here is the guy. His name is Ben Rockwood. He's the infrastructure chief at Joyent Cloud. And if you go listen to this video starting at 15 minutes and 30 seconds into the video, you will see what he says. Let's see, play. 15 minutes, 30 seconds.
So this set the couple directories, inject to solo.rb, downloads SMF manifest, fires it up, and that automatically, when it's injected, automatically starts Chef.
So he is on record, and he says in this video that he uses Chef to manage Giant Cloud, the cloud. I did not say that. He did. Solo, not even server. Possible. You can do it. If you know what you're doing, you can. Scary powerful. Yes, scary powerful. Huh. It's almost across different types of OS also, right? Not just one. We are using only one at this moment, but you can go any OS. You could pick and choose, and when you run it on that OS, it will know what to do and do it. Yep. They are already using it. It is used for regular also, and I'll show you how. I've seen Google employee laptops running Puppet Daemon. Yeah. They mostly are using either Mac or Linux, and they will have Puppet Daemon running. And I have seen, like, somebody asked me, hey, what this Puppet Daemon is on my machine? And I said, let me look. And I said, okay, now I know. So what they're doing is orchestrating centrally using Puppet and managing the entire laptop fleet in the company. So it's not just cloud. In fact, there are repositories that you can set up, buy a new Macintosh and configure it the way you want with one command called soloist. So the Mac people will be interested. You can define what packages you want. It will go to the other things, brew and God knows whatever you want, configure it, write down what your machine should look like, and run it. And it will create and install all packages you want and make your Mac ready for you with all dot files and Git names and everything ready and intact, with your growl running and your what was that thing, guard running, everything, all development environment ready in place. All you need to know is go buy a new Mac, run it, and in 30 minutes you're done, as opposed to set this, set that. It's nightmare, right?
Probably the company is going, they have hundreds of thousands of maybe not employees. So they can put some central point.
Yes, and here is how you do it. Exactly that point. Pivotal workstation. They have a new name for it, but I used to use it a while ago. This is the product that you can actually directly use right now. They have a new name, so it is deprecated, but I'll go to the new link, and I remember this name from my memory. It's a cookbook for recipes for an OS X workstation. Correct? So cookbook of recipes for workstation, and it is deprecated, meaning the new is part of Sprout. So we go to Sprout, and then Sprout is useful. So recipes to install applications on OS X when homebrew is not enough. So you use this. You can use it across your company for all your Macintoshes. The idea is something goes wrong, you just wipe your Mac, restore from Mavericks or Yosemite or whatever you have, and then come back to Sprout, click, and your development environment is set up in 30 minutes. Day one, or maybe day number 32. You wipe your Mac monthly or every so often, and you Sprout, or whatever this thing is, and then you have a fresh brand new machine every time you want it. It's repeatable, right? Very hands-free repeatable. You come in, run a command terminal, boom, come back in 30 minutes. You're done. And you can customize it to your taste. Like you can do for your internal keys or links to GitLab internally or external GitHub links. Or you can basically extend it to the way you like it, to your liking, make it repeatable for you. And that's how I do it, by the way. I have an old Pivotal workstation recipe that I set up my Macs on. And when I get a new machine or when I wipe this machine every so often, then I'll run that Pivotal workstation, which is a clone I have that I run. So it will do exactly what I want. So it'll take me 30 minutes to flatten and reinstall everything I want. And including Dropbox synchronization or just about anything that I would like to have configured, ready to use. So I can come to the class. Even if something goes wrong, I will be prepared. Yeah. Yeah, I have a work in GitHub. I have a place, my own private repository, which stores my information. I'll run that, and it will prepare my machine, and I'll become ready in 30 minutes. If I lose my Mac, for example, hope not, but if I do, then I can easily recover myself. Nothing is working. Yeah. Wow. I'll take a look. Let's talk sometime. We meet again, right? Soon, right? No?
Monday.
Okay. So maybe we talk over the weekend, Saturday or something, if you're available. But no, Monday is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine. Sprout. Mike. Sprout. I guess so. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Thank you.
I should have signed up for the class 1 week. I would have learned. I mean, I didn't know that you were taking Git.
Git's easy once you get it, but to really use Git, it takes time.
Yeah, so it looks like it's very close to
Subversion's big brother.
Yeah, like the same thing. SVN commit minus damage.
Yeah, exactly. Except that SVN is centralized. This is decentralized. Git's decentralized. Totally decentralized. You cannot cause conflicts. You can override it. You can create conflicts, but you can. There is no central point of conflict, as in central repository. If somebody checks out, then you cannot do anything. Those issues. Yeah. Git has local, all distributed. So anybody can fork off and create their own. You are running Git on your machine. Yes, you are already decentralized. You are already doing it. I need a voucher from you. Did you not give? Yeah, email it to me, please.